welcome. My name is Modele Sharafai, so this is View from the Top. One of the primary responsibilities of a nation, and indeed her government, is the protection of national interests, both at home and abroad. According to a school of thought on international relations, the tripod upon which national interests are founded are national security, economic well-being, and international prestige. From this perspective, the overriding national interests of any nation can be concretely interpreted as preservation of territorial integrity and national values. Obviously, for littoral nations such as Nigeria, the protection of her maritime front and related activities by a capable naval force is an imperative. I guess it's why the Nigerian Navy is among the largest navies on the African continent, consisting of several thousand personnel, including those of the Coast Guard. Its primary responsibility is the security and protection of economic interests in the maritime environment. The Navy also deals with internal threats, including political and communal conflicts, smuggling, piracy, sea robbery, poaching, marine pollution, and so forth. The Western Naval Command headquarters is located at Apapa in Lagos. It covers the sea and coastal areas from the Nigeria-Benin border to areas in Delta State, from the Nigerian coastline to the limit of the nation's exclusive economic zone. The Western Command is headed by Flag Officer Commanding and Rear Admiral OLADELE BAMIDELE DAJI. He is the 39th Flag Officer Commanding of the Western Naval Command. Rear Admiral DAJI joins me today on View from the Top, and I want to thank him very much. Thank you, Admiral.
Thank you, Modele. I'm glad to be here with you.
And thank you for joining us. Here's a brief biography of my guest before we settle down to our conversation. American strategy Admiral Alfred Mahan once said, and I quote, if I may read what he says, "Whoever rules the sea rules the world," and that you cannot win any land campaign without securing the sea lanes of communication to supply the war materials needed by all. Is this well understood by all?
I want to align with the view of Mahan that he who controls the seas will ultimately be in a good stead to win campaigns on land. And as to whether this has been understood by all, I want to say with all sense of modesty that over time, the Nigerian populace has largely ignored the potentials offered by the seas. But I think that narrative is changing, I think I would say, perhaps over the last 10, 12 years or so.
Right now, most of the interests that you are protecting is economic. Competition to establish regional leadership for ports capacity is ramping up with big projects in Ghana, Togo, Ivory Coast. What is the Navy doing to help Nigeria secure her position as one of the region's main transshipment destinations?
This is the area that the Nigerian Navy has been doing very well, a lot in the last 10 to 12 years since we disengaged from the ECOMOG operations in Nigeria, in Liberia and Sierra Leone, the Nigerian Navy has focused a lot on maritime security because there is a link between the security of the maritime expanse as well as the prosperity of the nation, knowing fully well that over 80% of Nigerian foreign trade is seaborne trade, and most of the hydrocarbons through which the country earns its foreign exchange are based at sea. And like you rightly observed, that some countries in the West African and Central African sub-region have been able to attract foreign investments for development of ports. It's also happening here. The Lekki Deep Sea Port is there, and some other states have also taken the initiative. But what is critical is that Nigeria must continue to invest in maritime security, to support all the agencies of government charged with that duty, so that our country can become a hub, a shipping hub, and this will translate to the prosperity of our people.
In addition to investing in hard infrastructure, as suggested, to ensure efficient operations and reduce dwell times in the ports, there's still the need to improve soft infrastructure like improved customs processes and ancillary support services. How is the Navy collaborating with other port agencies to improve port user experiences?
The Nigerian Navy has been at the vanguard of promoting interagency cooperation and synergy over time. And this led to the adoption of the harmonized standard operating procedures for arrests, detention, and prosecution of persons and vessels, which was launched by the Vice President in 2016. It's been adopted and is being operationalized, and wherever we find some lacuna, it's been fine-tuned, all in a bid to ensure that all agencies of government work together for a common goal and purpose. And here at the Western Naval Command, we're at the forefront of having a synergy with the Nigerian Ports Authority to ensure that ships at anchorages are safe through daily patrols and even night patrols. We collaborate also with NEMASA to ensure that all vessels that do not have business in Nigerian waters are not allowed to stay beyond the stipulated time, so as not to compromise our national security. And other agencies, the Marine Police, the EFCC in terms of prosecution of economic saboteur, the police, and other stakeholders. We are working together very well in synergy, and that is why in the Western Naval Command area of responsibility, like you say, stretches from Badagry to Igbokoda in Ondo State, has been relatively, free of incidents of piracy, hijacking, and sea robbery in the past few months.
Before we move to that topic, I want us to dwell a little bit on the ports because of its how critical it is to a Nigerian economy. The Ports and Harbour Bills calls for streamlined regulatory authority. Has this removed the bureaucratic bottlenecks in the ports?
I know that in our relationship with the NPA, there's been a lot of initiatives, even at the presidential level, to ensure the ease of business and to ensure that our ports are more efficient.
You were also a member of the Presidential Committee that proffered strategies for curbing crude oil theft in Nigeria in 2016. Crude oil theft, we admit, is no longer happening on the scale that it was 5 years ago, for example. That was monumental at the time, but it's still a problem.
Yeah, it's still a challenge, and if one wants to, let me say, look at how this has been fought.
Tell me.
Not only by the Nigerian Navy, but also, by our international partners. You will see that the level and scale of crude oil theft in particular has gone down. Although this issue is not rampant in the Western Naval Command area of responsibility, but having boundary with the Central Naval Command, we know that they are doing a lot, and a lot of arrest of vessels. As at June this year, when we had the Navy Week, we had almost about 102 vessels that have been arrested for one infringement or the other, in contravention of extant regulations. The challenge has really been prosecution, because the Nigerian Navy doesn't have prosecutorial power as at now, but I believe that is being looked into at the highest level of the Attorney General. But what we have now can be improved upon in terms of perhaps maybe a special court for that.
Tell me more about that initiative, though.
Well, the proposal, because shipping is an international business, and you could see the crew of a ship being from various countries, and the flag in which the ship is flying is from a different country, but the infringement is in the Nigerian
waters.
And the issue of prosecution, because most, I would say, of the processes that are supposed to lead to a conviction has to be streamlined to ensure that there is no loss of evidence along the way. And so this takes time, collation, and these criminals, they try to cover their tracks, but there is a proposal, perhaps either for the Navy to be given prosecutorial power so that we'll be able to prosecute like the other prosecuting agencies.
What are you doing to effectively combat, the Navy, to combat the menace of piracy and other illegal activities on our waters, knowing as we do that ensuring safety and security on Nigeria's territorial waters will boost foreign investments and so on and so forth, and improve our economy?
A combination of strategies. And for the Western Naval Command, one of such strategies is that they don't live at sea. They live somewhere. We seek them out and deny them the freedom of action to even go to sea at all. And the second one is that because of the vast expanse, the interconnectedness of the creeks, some of them they slip through the radar and still be able to find their way to sea. We have what we call the Maritime Domain Awareness Infrastructure that will be able to detect up to 200 nautical miles every vessel that is operating at sea. And once a vessel is able to raise an alarm that is probably going to be under attack or is under attack, the nearest patrol vessel of a Nigerian Navy is vectored to such a vessel to assist. And that's what we've been doing very well. And that has, in the IMB reporting on piracy, you see that over the past 3 months, the figure has been going down.
We've established that economic sabotage can happen as a consequence of the porous borders. But the nexus between Nigeria's porous borders and the current state of insecurity has also since been established. What has not been clearly articulated, though, is the plan to secure these borders. And what have we neglected to do, and what can we be doing now if it's not too late?
Well, I wouldn't say that there has been no plan to secure our borders. There's always been a plan to secure the borders and to ensure that whatever comes in through the borders, the legal borders are checked 100%. Perhaps we could talk about the illegal borders. And that is why, since the 20th of this month, it might interest you to note that we've been at sea with what we call Operation Swift Response, directed, by the federal government to secure our borders. The customs is the lead agency. We are offering support as a command, from the sea flanks. We have all our patrol boats and 2 of our capital ships, that's the major ships, participating in the ongoing Operation Swift Response. And so far, we've been able to make significant gains, which, because of the need for prosecution and diligent investigation, will not allow me to go into details here. But suffice to state that this has also, brought to the fore what has been missing in the past, and that is synergy and communication between the various agencies that are charged with securing our borders. Now we can communicate with each other because we are now on a common communication platform, and the procedure and processes of processing arrested persons have now been streamlined such that each agency knows where its power stops and where to hand over to the other agency. So we're getting that right at the moment, and in the final analysis, I believe it will lead to improved border security.
While serving at the Defense Intelligence Agency, you were actively involved in the operations that led to the disarming of militants in the Niger Delta in 2009. There was subsequently the amnesty program. How important was the presidential amnesty program in achieving security in the maritime industry? I say that because some people thought, it was we just yielded, Nigeria just yielded to blackmail. Where do you stand on that debate? How important has it been?
It was a federal government directive. And if we can cast our minds back to what was happening then, when we had a drop in crude oil production from about 2.2 to less than 1.1 million barrels per day, courtesy of the offshore production, then I don't think it will be fair for anyone to say that the federal government succumbed to blackmail. More so, these young men are Nigerian citizens, and the amnesty program has brought, at least in a majority of them, the best in them in terms of the kind of training and skills that they've been given. Perhaps where we should be looking at now is how to absorb them to make sure that the skills that they've acquired are gainfully used. And it is not, the federal that will do this. The state governments have a responsibility. The oil companies themselves have a responsibility, and all stakeholders have a responsibility to ensure that the amnesty program, is well implemented.
Restiveness has, in the creeks, thankfully has gone down, but bunkering has taken over from the restiveness, and some have advised that government should legitimize the illegal refineries to tackle the problem. What says you?
Bunkering by itself is not a criminal offense. It is illegal bunkering.
Illegal.
That is the problem. And how can you legitimize illegality? you'll be calling for chaos. No, you can't legitimize illegality. There are processes and procedures in dealing with petroleum products, right from the crude to the refined products. These youths or persons engaged in this breaking of the pipeline to destroy the environment is rather unfortunate, because the hydrocarbons that get into the soil takes hundreds of years to break down, and it will require billions of dollars to clean up this environment. And that is why, over the past few years, the Nigerian Navy, in conjunction with other agencies like the Ministry of Culture and Information, National Orientation, have been sensitizing these communities, including the chiefs and the kings, on the long-term impact of this menace for future generations. I think we cannot legitimize illegality because we want to please a certain, very small clique of people, who are bent on destroying the environment and crippling the economy.
Let's go to the military in general. I've heard former Vice President Atiku Abubakar say that the military is demoralized. Whatever gives him that impression, I don't know. But the military does seem to be struggling in this war against terrorism. Is the military overwhelmed? Maybe not demoralized, but maybe overwhelmed.
Well, we are not politicians, and we're not trained to join issues, with political leaders or figures. But to say that the military is demoralized is far from the truth, because even in the open media, we see the gains that our gallant officers and men are making against the war, against insurgency in the Northeast, and other forms of criminalities in parts of the country, North Central, the Northwest, against the marauding cattle rustlers, and the rest of them. So I think we should leave the realm of politics to reality and encourage the Nigerian Armed Forces to finish up this fight as quickly as possible.
Talking about finishing up, the problem in the Northeast, for example, do you think that the region, the elders in that region are doing enough to help solve a problem which is widely believed to be directly or indirectly linked to the elites, especially the political elites?
As a military commander, I can speak on the issues that I'm versed with. I've not served in the theater. I wouldn't know the efforts except what we've been reading in the open media about ongoing talks, the presidential initiative and stuff like that. But I'm not competent to really speak on that.
Well, one of the unfortunate fallouts of this war against insurgency is that alleged human rights abuses by the military. Where do we draw the line between counter-insurgency and the rights of the accused persons in the process?
The Nigerian Armed Forces, ably led by General Abayomi Gabriel Olonisake, has zero tolerance for human rights abuses. And all cases of human rights, I mean all cases of alleged human rights abuses have been investigated and brought to the open. And we have seen that in majority of the cases, these have been found to be false and with foreign interests. And don't forget that some of these so-called human rights organizations are funded from foreign sources, and they have to justify, the funding they are getting. And those that have been found to be true, disciplinary processes that is known and legitimate by the laws of the land, as applicable in the Armed Forces Act, have been applied to those erring personnel.
The Western Naval Command also maintains presence at Tongeji Island. What's going on in that area? There's suggestions that Nigeria risks losing that island to Benin Republic. Do we have reasons to worry?
Tongeji Island is the last frontier of Nigerian territory with a maritime border or maritime boundary with Benin Republic. And if there is,
And it's rich in mineral resources.
And you agree with me that if it is not governed, then there should be, room for concern, because there is no vacuum in nature. If a place is rich in mineral resources and is ungoverned, then you are inviting, every Tom, Dick, and Harry, even from across the continent, to come there. And that is why the Nigerian Navy has continued to maintain presence on the island for, if I can remember very well, as far back as 2011, as far back as 2011. And we know that the Boundary Commission and other agencies of government, and more importantly, the Ogun State government, has shown very keen interest, in ensuring that Tongeji Island is firmly in the hands of, within the territory of Nigeria. And you will recall, just about a few months ago, the Nigerian ambassador to Benin Republic also paid a courtesy, a visit to the island, after which he paid a courtesy call on the governor, the executive governor of Ogun State. His Excellency also promised to ensure that the attention that Tongeji Island deserves is given priority in his administration. That is very heartwarming and very encouraging for the Nigerian Navy. And we'll continue to put in our best within the limits of available resources to ensure that we maintain credible presence and deterrence, to any would-be intruder into Tongeji.
Rear Admiral Daji, we thank you for your time. And we thank you for watching. Please join us next time when the program comes around. But between now and then, let's continue our conversation online. Do tweet me your thoughts. Thank you again for watching, and bye for now.